Hey there, it's Louisa Munson. Welcome back. It's the Feel Good Astrology Sunday show. How you're doing? That's where I want to start. Like, how are you doing? Where are you listening in from? And I wonder what it is that you might want to get tonight. I know I've got 3 people that I am reading the charts for tonight. And yeah, I think there's so much more that other people can get. Often, as in the case of like when I used to I remember listening to Steve Judd, the astrologer, quite a few years ago when people would call in and he'd have a quick look at their charts and stuff. And there was always a message that I found that I could get. So, I wonder what might be about to come out for everyone. Tonight, it's really funny. I don't really look at the charts before I get going. I always just draw up the charts and put them in a folder and then really have a good look at them when it's showtime. Because I like the surprise of it. I don't want to spend hours agonizing over a chart. I'm very much kind of in the moment, in and out, But one thing I noticed, which I just couldn't ignore when I had a quick look at these charts earlier, was that they all had their ascendant in the sign of Leo. One right on the cusp, literally right on the cusp. So, a lot of that depends on the accuracy of the timing. So we can actually, I'll give a description actually of Cancer ascendant and also Leo ascendant, so that the person whose chart I'm looking at can get a better feel, if that's the right one or not. But anyway, if you're a Leo, you might find this quite useful. If you know that you've definitely got Leo ascendant, it should be really, really useful because obviously we've got slow moving planets, i.e. Uranus, Neptune and Pluto. And so where they are right now in the charts of these Leo ascendant people that I'm looking at today, all women, in fact, these lovely Leo ascendant women, I'll be talking about the impact of where each of those planets are in their chart, and that will be true of everyone really that's listening in with Leo ascendant. And also from a Leo perspective, there feels to be some truth as well. When you look, when you really are tuning into that energy and what it might mean to have a lot of Leo whilst also having Uranus in the sign of Taurus, for instance, which is in a square, like the two signs are square. It's kind of interesting. There are themes that will come up for anyone with a strong Leo. So, this is going to be fun to explore. I mean, if you've got Leo in your moon, you might also find a little bit of there'll be something that kind of resonates at some level. Now, even more interestingly, both or 2 of my women tonight have also got their sun in the sign of Taurus and their ascendant in Leo. So there's even stronger coincidences. And I always think these things just, they happen for a reason. There's something that wants to come out and be birthed. We are coming into this, into the summer right now. We had the solstice last week. And of course, during the summer, we always have Leo season. Right now, we've got Venus and Mars in this kind of slow, this very slow conjunction. It's drawing out slowly. And Venus is going to be going retrograde in this next month in July in the sign of Leo. So that's going to create some changes. I think that might actually be why we've got like 3 people with Leo ascendant that have, kind of asked to be on the show tonight, because with Venus going retrograde, and it's through, a major part of their chart, it is going to create a bit of a reset. So, so we'll be talking about Venus retrograde as well. And also in this next month, we've also got the North Node changing signs from the sign of Taurus and into the sign of Aries, which very well could affect all 3 charts, given that that is in the rough area of the 9th, 10th house for, probably all of them. But we'll have a good examination of this in just a sec. But before I get going, I always really like to just check in and see if I've got any comments. And I can't see any comments so far. That's unusual. That's so unusual. Anyway, I wonder what's happened. Where's all the comments gone? There's usually loads coming in at this time. I wonder if there's a technical issue, if I've done something wrong. Who knows? Hopefully not. I'm hoping this is streaming. Ooh, that's got me a bit worried. Anyway, on with the show. I think it's really important to just get on with it. So Yeah, it's gone to YouTube. Yeah, it says it's streaming, so that's good. Okay, so let's have a look at the first chart, and I'm going to just make it a bit bigger so we can have a look. And this chart is Misty's chart, and you'll see that we've got Misty's ascendant here at 22 degrees in the sign of Leo. Right here, and you can see right now we've got Venus and also Mars over the ascendant, like either side of it, and also Pallas Athena. So this is quite an interesting thing to focus on right at the start. Now, before I go any further, let's just have a quick look at what she said to me in an email. I'm just checking on another screen. So Misty is sharing with me, I've been into astrology since I was young, but textbook learning is not my thing. I get things more intuitively and visually and hearing. Me too, I have to say to that. Thus, when YouTube started getting big, I began learning more about my chart, and I've looked at my kids' charts, but I still don't really know that much. I would disagree with that, Misty, from our conversations, but it's always good to be learning all the time, isn't it? I guess I'd just like to hear an overall outlook on it and know how you'll see like both the good and bad sides. I've got my North Node in the sign of Capricorn in the 6th house, and there have been lots of ups and downs and stops and uncertainty on my way through, and I feel like I'm a jack of all trades but master of none. So I guess guidance on that would be great, but really any direction you feel compelled to give me is good. So let's have a good look. Okay, so she was talking about her North Node. Now Misty's North Node is here. If you have a look, it's at 27 degrees in the sign of Capricorn. So it was very close to the time when it changed, because the North Node appears to work backwards. And so it would have come from the sign of Aquarius and into the sign of Capricorn. And so it was newly in the sign of Capricorn around the time of, or at the time of Misty's birth. And this is the 6th house that Misty's talking about. One of the things that probably has created a bit of difficulty for her in stepping forwards, I would say, would be Pluto, that's been moving, like all the other planets are moving this way. And Pluto's our slowest moving planet. And literally over the last 2 years, for sure, Pluto would have been really influencing her North Node. Now, the themes of Pluto are regeneration, transformation, control, power. And it really does bring up a lot of themes, lots and lots of themes. Because if you think like control, power, transformation, they're all things that cause quite big shitstorms in our lives. They're not easy, like, for instance, one of the things I've noticed with Pluto a lot is that when you're really wanting to do something that you feel absolutely in your heart needs to come out, and you start to do it and you keep meeting up against these brick walls, or there's this feeling like you get as far as you can, all of a sudden there's this feeling that you're being shut down or pushed back. It's often I think, a sign that we're trying to push on something that maybe is either not right for us, or there's a better way of doing it. So I think sometimes life pushes back at us because there's a better way of doing something, and so we get this feeling that, right, it's not right now, it's not what you need right now. And if you follow that feeling and think, okay, there's no real sort of energy on this or magic on this, and you kind of sit back and take a breather, I always think if it's for you, it will come back to you. So like if the idea returns, you might find it comes with a new set of knowledge attached to it, which means you can move a bit forwards, and then you might get another pushback, and it's time to wait a little bit. The thing with Pluto is you have to go really, really slowly, and Pluto moves slower than we care to enjoy. Like Pluto can fart around spending around about 250 years to go around here. But when we think about our lifespan, we think, Jesus, I've got to get a move on here, Like, I don't have much time. Come on, chop chop. And so for us, it feels like it's interminable. So Misty has had Pluto going over this sign, but I want to have a look at the rest of her chart. So that's like my first comment, really. First thing that seems quite important. And here's an interesting thing is right now, like, I mean, at her birth, Pluto is actually at 29 degrees in another earth sign, in the sign of Virgo. And Pluto right now is at 29 degrees. Now, Pluto and the North Node are in a trine. Now, to me, what that's saying is there is a good flow of the Pluto energy. So Missy's all about transformation. She's all about recycling ideas and bringing something up throughout the whole life cycle. Like, she's a whole life cycle person. So she observes the stirring and the kind of internal messaging that there's a birth about to come, or there's a conception of an idea, and then she'll gradually birth it. And then, and this is probably true of her children, that she feels them coming before they arrive. And then she is very patient with the whole birthing process. And then everyone grows at their own stage, either children or ideas or different stages in Misty's life. And then it comes to a pinnacle, whereby either you have to let go of your children or you have to let go of your ideas, because they've come as far as they can go. And then those ideas or those children need to move on their own. And then their life cycle is like the relationship to Misty's ideas, I think, will probably be changing. So she's really used to those ideas. And then if you look at the top, this is the best part, is that she's got her sun here at 29 degrees in the sign of Taurus. So she's essentially got, let me zoom out a little bit so you can see it, this beautiful grand trine between the sun and Pluto and the North Node. And right now, Pluto is actually energizing it. But Pluto, like I say, there is always this slowing down. There's always this feeling of pushback when we're kind of rushing to get things done. So I do think this is something that's playing out. But like I say, I want to have a little bit more of a look. Now, let's just see if we've got any comments coming. Oh, yeah, people are here. That's good. Hello. I'll say hello in a sec. So, but thank you for just showing me you are there. That's great. So Misty's also got Ceres right on her ascendant. Now, Ceres isn't one of the sort of planets that people talk about. She's a dwarf planet, or sometimes thought of as an asteroid. She is very much about, she's known as Demeter. She's also known as Mother Earth. So Ceres is always very prominent in the charts of people who are nurturers, who are really good mums. Also, Ceres shows up to show us more about our mum too. So if you've got your mum or Ceres in a prominent place, you've probably got quite a prominent mum, or there's something about your mum that has affected your life in quite a considerable way. So I imagine the fact that it's in the sign of Leo and it's right on her ascendant is super prominent. Now, the nurturing side of her is also in a lovely trine to Chiron. Chiron is about wounds and also about healing childhood stuff. Her Chiron is right on the cusp between the 8th and the 9th house here. Now, Chiron in the 8th is very much about letting go of blame, shame, guilt, and anger and regret and all the old values that other people have put onto you in your life. Because if there weren't such a thing as other people, you wouldn't even know to feel shame or guilt or blame or anger. So the 8th is definitely about other people's values in the same way as the 2nd is about your personal values. So let's look at this just for a sec. So she's got Pluto, then Juno, which is about commitment and dedication, and Uranus, which is about the right to be herself. So these are her values. She's got this value for transformation. And this is some, like, the 2nd house, a lot of astrologers talk in terms of money. Oh, it's where I earn my money. I also think it's how you value yourself. It's not just about what value you're drawing in from your amazing skills, but it's also how you value yourself. So with Pluto and Uranus here, I would say there's a real need to feel very stirred in terms of how she earns money or how she's recognized. And also, you've probably got changing thoughts about yourself, I would say, Misty. and that you probably have times that are very easy to value yourself, and probably times when it's very difficult to value yourself completely. There's so much to unpack, in fact. But anyway, Chiron up here is really, I think it's one of the positions of somebody who might go into therapy. I don't mean like as a patient, though that is also part of the picture. But I'm thinking more of it in terms of being a therapist and being there to notice and observe patterns of shame, blame, guilt, and anger and regret, and all those other things that hold people in place. Because you can do that, Misty, because you've got the aura, you've got the mystique of a mum, like an earth mum, like a soul mum, a soul midwife, somebody who is there to put her arms, like her metaphorical angel wings or big mum arms around the situation, and to stabilize things and to say, right now, you're safe. You're absolutely safe, really safe. And it's time to let those blame, shame, guilt, regret, anger. Sorry if you can hear my family in the background. They're all having a ball in the kitchen. It's time to let everybody feel safe and to know that real transformation's coming, that you can absolutely let go. And when you let go, there is that amazing kind of birthing. Now, that also really, I think, ties in with her North Node, her Pluto, and her Sun. Her Sun is in the 10th house. The 10th house is about recognition, how we get recognized, and I guess rewarded, how people appreciate her. She's also got Mercury right on her midheaven. You can just hear here the MC. So this Mercury here is showing that at some level her voice is really important, getting her voice out, having like being heard is really, really important, really important. And I would imagine with Uranus sort of going back over this point over the last couple of years has stopped her from or given her moments of feeling heard and then moments of oof. She probably spoke up quite a lot in the last few years, I would say, like quite a surprising way. Now, hopefully, she's found her voice that Uranus has been going through here for a while. Jupiter is, I think, one of the biggest advantages because Jupiter is about to cross into this area, which is going to energize, what's going on in terms of how she's rewarded. So, with this Sun, which is about personality and identity, and then Pluto to do a transformation, and then North Node here about our life direction. Those three together, I think, are absolutely what you would have in the toolkit of a good psychologist or therapist or somebody who could go deep into the psyche and stand strong around the psyche to really help and support people. So anything I would say that is fashioning or shaping or like allowing for a new reworking or remodeling to come. I mean, you could also say, like, given that she's got a lot in earth signs, that she may well be a good sculptor, so she might actually be physically good at this. She might be good at making things and sculpting things. So there's a really lovely side to her. I really also love this Venus and Mars conjunction in the sign of Cancer, really giving her this sort of very strong empathy, a love of people, and also a very strong community feel. She really stands by friends. This is a position for somebody who is very well connected to some very good people who are motivated and give her motivation, and who she motivates, but also people that she genuinely shares love with. And Pallas Athena here. Now, look at this pattern. Isn't this interesting? So we've got Venus, Mars, Pallas Athena in the sign of Cancer. Now, where have you seen that already? Aha, right here. So this is where I'm coming to right now, because we've got Venus, Mars, and then Pallas Athena in the same line, only this time in the next sign along. Now, what are the chances that, as I'm reading this kind of pattern here is recreating itself, but shifted on? These planets all move, or I mean, asteroids, these celestial objects, let's put it that way, they move at different speeds. And so right now, even though they were in this position at the time she was born, they are now recreating this position on an astronomical level in the next sign. That is really quite interesting. Um, to me, I always think when I see repeating patterns that there is some kind of um, reassurance that you're on the right track, is what I would say. Is that whatever's going on right now is, you like, whatever feels good about it is something that is, it's almost like an echo of the past. It's an echo of your programming. It's like there's this echo coming in to remind you who you are. And given that I was saying, in the last few years you were starting to speak more of your truth, and really allow that truth to come out, I would say there is an echo, there is a resonance coming back. I don't think what you've been sharing and hearing is for no reason. And I think you've learnt some truth about yourself. Let's hope so, because this is a really interesting time, Misty, because you've got Pallas Athena's just crossed over your ascendant. Pallas Athena is about strategy, cool, calm, feminine strategy, the ability to calmly intuit, but also observe patterns that connect all sorts of details and facts, but also very much, I always see Pallas Athena is usually really strong in the charts of astrologers, because they're looking at patterns, but also mathematicians, statisticians, people that play with crypto, anyone that's dealing with patterns and the organization of sets of things, is, so Pallas is really, really strong there. So this crossing your ascendant, could be an interest in astrology that's getting stronger at the moment. You've already got that going on for you. But this recognition that you already have a lot of the information, the knowledge in place to do whatever it is that you want to do. But there's probably a recognition of, oh, I'm going into this pattern again, and noticing a pattern of life cycles going on in, it's all starting to come together. It's almost like the pieces of your puzzle are starting to piece together. Then Mars, just right on the cusp right now, just literally before the ascendant. It's usually a time when we feel a little bit irritated because we can feel this like new energy coming up for us, and yet it's not really ready to be birthed. But trust me, in fact, I'll tell you right now when Mars is going to cross over your ascendant. So where's Mars? By the 28th. So this week, Mars is going to cross over your ascendant, and then you should start to feel a lot more vitality. You should start to feel that you're a lot more in control, and it feels like it's time to push forwards a little bit with who you are and letting people really see you shine. And then Venus, she's going to be crossing over around the 3rd of July. And then this is the important thing. So all of these planets here are going to be crossing over by the 3rd of July, which is just next week, next Tuesday, I think. And then, everything's moving forwards. But then on the 22nd and 23rd of July, Venus is going to go retrograde at 28 degrees. So she's just coming up to here. And then it appears that she's moving backwards. Of course, she's not moving backwards at all. It's just how it looks with our relative positions and speeds and orbits. But it appears that she's going backwards. And during that time, we have a refocus on what we value. So Venus is all about value, love, connection, gentleness, comfort and flow. She's great. She's all about ease and grace and glory, really, in many ways. And so when she goes backwards, we're remembering old times of ease and grace and joy. And we're really, it's almost a time when we start to feel nostalgic. And so during this time, people like antiques dealers, people that deal in antiquities, they seem to do quite well because people start to really feel that sense of nostalgia, and they really want to buy the things that make them feel good. So it's really connecting us back into a time when we felt good. So it's also quite interesting. Old lovers seem to pop up because Venus represents love, and so old lovers pop up and start knocking on our doors and trying to get our attention, or they come into our mind. We're starting to think about other times, maybe when we were happier, and we start to just pull back a little bit and just review, are we still in flow? Are we still in this love flow? Are we still able to receive? And then, by the 3rd of September, she's come all the way back to about here. and then she starts moving forwards again. And then she crosses over your ascendant at the end of September. And at that point, I think it's almost like a bit of a launch point. You know, Mars has already gone there. Then Venus comes over. When Venus comes over, it feels like your beauty, your value has increased somehow, and it's really seen and captured in your personality and your identity. So what I would say is it's quite interesting for you at the moment because with Venus coming over the ascendant, Venus, Mars, and Mercury retrogrades really affect us on a personal level. The other retrogrades like Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, Saturn, and Chiron, less so. They're more affecting the community and the world, and then it sort of filters down to you. So it's kind of like shit rolling downhill like from the outside, whereas with the personal ones, Venus, Mercury, and Mars, it's really what we're creating ourselves for ourselves. So this does seem, it's quite a dreamy time and a time when we might need to pay a bit more attention. So I would say to you that over the summer, from the 22nd of July until the 3rd of September, as Venus goes retrograde over this point, it is a time when you may well be pulled in a few different directions because you're nostalgic and you're trying to connect in with the past. What I would do is just see it as a message, see it as a necessary phase. There's something else you need to look into before you move forwards. And just to clarify, it goes backwards over your ascendant around the 10th of August. So you really might feel conflicted around that time, but just kind of breathe through it and just enjoy the fact that, we have these sort of wildly intuitive and different times when we're almost connecting to a different version of ourselves. So just see it as part of your re-emergence. It's almost like caterpillar chrysalis time, Any last thoughts? Oh yeah, the North Node is currently here in Misty's ninth house in the sign of Taurus, and will be changing into the sign of Aries. Given her North Node in the sixth, it does make people. I'm going to have to go in a sec, or else I'm not going to get to do other people's charts. But it's like what she's really learning right now is, I think that it's time to pick one thing and go deeper. Like she mentioned, being a jack of all trades. With the ninth, there's this sort of expansion, but the North Node is really wanting us to also go very deep. So I think it is a time to go deep. And while she's been learning to value her depth, I really think that in this next month, after Venus has gone direct again, she'll start to feel that she can purposefully and directly go deep. So anyway, I hope that's helpful, Misty. So let's just see. I'm going to welcome a few people. Oh my goodness, it looks like I'm getting a bit. I've got someone called Tarot Destroyer here who is just really posting a lot. That's very direct. So we've got evening all. That's from Mr. M. We've got hello from Jen, and wavy hands and things. Kate M is saying hello. Can I get my chart read? Kate, you can, but you'll have to do it another day. I've got space next week and thereafter. And if you check in the show notes below, there's a link to my private community on School. And if you join that and make contact with me there in the email function, and then I can sort that out for you. And that goes for anyone that wants their chart read. Jen is saying, oh, it's just hello. We've got Cindy B. Good afternoon from Washington State. Hello. Tarot Destroyer, you can get your chart read, but like I said before, you need to join my community. There's a lot of that just seems a bit spammy to me. Colleen is saying hello. Colleen, hello. Hello, Louisa, coming from America. We've got Family Munson saying hola. Colleen, that's a lot of hellos, really. What a lovely gathering. How's everyone doing today? So anyway, I'm going to move on. Let's bring on the next chart. And the next chart is Nikki. So we've got Nikki joining us, and she is based in Florida. Now, I've looked at Nikki's chart a little bit in the past. Now, Nikki's wanting a bit more of a generic reading. She's been through a lot of change over the last few years. And I'll show you why, actually. And this, so this is where you see Uranus here. Can you see him at the top? I'm sure you can. He's the one that looks like a space invader, for anyone that grew up with that 80s game. Whenever Uranus comes close to our midheaven, when it comes close to our north node, when it comes close to our sun, or moon even, it creates change. Like Uranus is a planet to do with change, excitement, ups and downs. It's about consciousness, definitely about consciousness. It's also about new technology, and AI would come under the description of Uranus. It's quite shocking, but it's also very innovative, and it's also really exciting. It's very spontaneous. So your life can get really, really exciting. Uranus is also one of the planets, the main planet, I think, that's associated with astrology, because it's about consciousness. It's also very much, associated with the New Age. So yeah, Uranus is a very strong and slow moving planet, not as slow as Pluto. But as you can see in Nikki's chart, when I met Nikki a few years ago, Uranus was just around here. And in that time, it has gone over her midheaven, and also over her north node, and then also over her sun, which, oh my goodness, it's gone up to her sun. Right now, Uranus, I think, is at 22 degrees off the top of my head, 21 degrees. So it's very, very close to her sun. And then it goes backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. It's always moving more forwards and not so much back. So it's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And it will pass her sun, I think, for the last time, hopefully, in this run of it. So the first thing I'm going to do, actually, just to get a sense of what's going on, is just check out the position of Uranus. Yeah, Uranus is actually going to connect with it's not the last time Uranus is coming into in close to her sun. It's coming up into 23 degrees mid-August, and it's at 23 degrees, not quite reaching her sun, and then going retrograde. So she's going to get a real feel for this personal liberty that comes when Uranus goes over the sun. So it can create a really big change. And I know Nikki is waiting to hear about a big change, and for a big change to take place. And so I really get the feeling that this big change can really start to take place in August. But the fact that it's all going retrograde is kind of fascinating. I'm just going to see where he's going retrograde to and when he goes forward again. Yeah, he's actually going to cross over her ascendant on the 26th of May, which is quite some time from now. If you think, like, we're in the end of June at the moment, 26th of May, that's a long way off. But bear with me, because I haven't shared with you, Nikki, or I might have done a couple of years ago, because I could see it coming. But Jupiter is coming into this place here. And as it crosses over this midheaven, in April of next year, both Jupiter and Uranus come together very, very close, right in between your North Node and the Sun. And when that happens, it is really going to blow up whatever is going on and reset and get everything moving appropriately again in the way that you've been hoping for. So I really do think that's going to happen. Now, I know you're fascinated by personal development, and I also know that you've always got a project or two on the go. So if you've got a project on the go that involves some kind of item that you might want to sell, then it's also really important right now to start developing it, and think about how you might get it to market. And I would absolutely suggest launching it around the time of, I mean, when Jupiter goes over this point here, which isn't a long way off really. Let me just tell you when that's happening. I mean, that could mark a time when it might show when you might naturally want to release something. When does it go over that point? Actually, it's not until March 2024. So 2024 really seems to be the year when things start to move forwards. That's not to say that things aren't going to happen before then, but it's more speaking about like divine timing and making sure that everything else is in place. Like you might feel ready, but the other characters involved in what's going on right now might still not be ready. And so it's like about getting everything sort of facing the same way before you can move forwards. But from March right the way through to the end of May, it's a really dynamic time when things are going to move very fast suddenly. And when you get to the end of it, you'll be looking back and thinking, oh my goodness, it's happened. That happened really fast and a lot more effectively than I was expecting. And then you've got both of them in your 10th house and things are going to speed up. But let me talk about, I just wanted to start there because I knew that that's probably one of the themes that's been on your mind, because we've watched it come on and it's had such a profound effect. Now, what is significant right now, very much like Misty's chart, is that Nikki's ascendant is also in its 20s. So Misty's ascendant was at 22 degrees. Nikki's is at 20 degrees. And right now, Mars is right on her ascendant, which is usually a day when our strength really comes on in full force. And like if you haven't been feeling up to scratch recently, Nikki, I would say it's probably because you've had Mars going through this 12th area, which is an area that's not really that dynamic. It's an area of discovery. It's an area of introversion. It's an area of navel gazing, meditation, yoga, really going inside rather than going out. The great news is, as Mars has crossed your ascendant now, you're in for a time of coming out a lot more and into yourself. You're going to feel a lot more yourself. Like you're going to feel like you want to get your trainers on and go for a bit of a run. Or you might have a little bit more energy. So I love that. First of all, I think that's really good. Now, Venus is not far off, but as you may have heard from the chart before, she's going to cross your ascendant, and then around the 22nd of July, she's going to double back on herself. Now, I just want to give you the dates of when she's crossing over and what you can expect. So it feels like you're coming back into that time of your own glamour, your own level of beauty is about to really be revealed, you know. So Venus is going over your ascendant on the day of the 1st of July, which is next Saturday, or this coming Saturday. And it's a time for you to dazzle. You'll have Mars in your first house, Venus in your first house. Now, if we look just over here, you can see that your Venus is actually in the sign of Aries. So you've got a fiery Venus anyway. When Venus is in the same, she's in the same element, you understand it feels like you understand the Venus energy. And so it's really alluring. You're probably going to feel a lot more stirred in yourself, a lot more attractive, and you'll be a lot more noticeable. I also love this, may I just say, this lovely 12 degrees sextile between Venus and Mars here, both at 12 degrees. It's very nice. But anyway, so you've got Venus crossing over. Now, she's going to cross back over your ascendant on the 13th of August. So around the 13th of August, you may well feel very conflicted and start to think about the good old days and maybe doubt some of your decisions in recent times. You might start to really wonder if you've made the right decision. I really want you to not panic around that time, because from the 3rd of September, which is a couple of weeks longer, Venus starts to go right again. You're reminded that actually there is a reason for all of the decisions, for all of the changes. It's like just going back just to review. It's giving you a chance just to really make sure. Now, you will be probably feeling quite dreamy as well. Now, I absolutely recognize that your like softness and your big heart, and your protectiveness of your privacy is really important. So I really see that during this time, even though Mars is in the first house, which normally is a time when we stand out more and we start to become a lot more obvious in how we are. What I think is your feeling of vitality from having Mars in your first house is almost like helping you to protect your children and protect yourself and protect who you are. It's quite fierce, you'll be like a strong lioness. And then with Venus going retrograde into the 12th house, I really feel that it's also giving you that protective nest space, to keep you and your kids really nice and cozy. And it's a time to also remember how close you've been, and also it might give you a sense of how you can rekindle some of that closeness. So I see that as all being really quite positive. Last thing then, like right now, and I did see, I remember talking about this when we chatted in the past, Nikki. You've got Neptune right now on your moon, so you are super intuitive right now. Your moon in Pisces is really, really intuitive, really feels things. So, people with the sun in Taurus are also deeply intuitive as well. So you probably have been feeling a lot of other things going on around you. So, whilst there's what is going on in your life, you're probably also resonating with other things around you that are sort of interconnected, but not quite your business. I guess like the COVID days have had quite a strong effect and a strong, it's almost left an aftertaste, especially for sensitive people. And with Neptune here as well, your empathy and your intuition is at an all-time high right now. And that can be really, really confusing when there's lots going on, especially lots of psychic world disturbance. So if I was in your shoes right now, I would plan some form of therapeutic retreat, something that will help you capture some of these ideas and sort through them in a way that's going to be more helpful. Because on the moon, it's really difficult for you to know what is yours and what's not yours. And so if you're dealing with difficult people or aggressive people or people who are doing a lot of gaslighting, it's going to be very, very confusing. So I don't know if there's somebody around you or a method that can help you sort through the mass of stored emotions that needs to come out. To me, it feels like it's quite a strong time to purge. So I'm going to leave that there, Nikki. I hope that's helpful to you. And I'm just going to go back to some comments, but then I do just want to quickly come back to your chart just to talk more about what's going on for Leo ascendant people, because you can clearly see where those outer planets are, and I think that could be quite helpful for others. So what's coming on? We've got Jen saying, well, giving us a smiley face. Mrs. M, put your community group link up. It won't let me. Okay, I will do. It's actually in the show notes. So if you, like I said, if you want to have a reading, then please do just click on the link below. It's got school in the link. It's a private community on school.com. There's no ads. There's no fact checkers. It's a safe place for people who like to talk about astrology and to, I guess, I'm going to say sisterhood. It's not just women. There's a couple of guys in there, but it's a feeling. It's like a feeling of closeness, and I'm hoping it's going to build over time. And I'm going to be putting in some different resources that I don't put out onto mainstream. So if you're interested in that, please do click on that link and join me on school. And we've got the Global Nobles as well. Amy, hello. Sorry, I've just revealed your name. How rude of me. But hello from Lisbon. It's nice to have you here. Thank you for joining us. Okay, so let's just go back to this chart quickly, because I did want to... So just kind of give a little bit more information for those people with Leo ascendants. So right now, for anyone with a Leo ascendant, i.e. their birth charts, the ascendant starts in the sign of Leo. It might be up here, it might be down here. But like Saturn is going through the sign of Pisces. Now, that's mainly, in fact, it's probably, I'm going to actually look at Latifa's chart to do this, to demonstrate this, because this is the last chart we're going to look at. So if you've got your ascendant in the early degrees of a Leo ascendant, what Saturn's teaching you right now is that there's a lot of old rubbish to deal with in terms of your thoughts and feelings and shared investments, where you're sharing things with other people and their values somehow impinge on your life. So like your partner's pensions, their investments, loans, and this, that, and the other, shares, insurance payments and things like that, where you're sort of like co-valuing in some way, or co-owning things. There's a lot of things to clear up. There's a lot of business there. If your ascendant in Leo is towards the end, then the chances are Saturn's going to be in the 7th house, which is clearing up stuff in your relationship. So it's interesting that Saturn here for Leo ascendants is about clearing up aspects of relationships, whether it's the relationship itself or how it's valued. So that's something very strong for anyone with a Leo ascendant right now, is to find out, get the clarity on it, really get the clarity. It's time to drive in on that, because if you don't, things could run away with themselves. So that's important. With Pluto, you may well find that Pluto is in your 6th house or going into your 7th house. Now, Pluto is about control. So for people like the early Leo ascendant people, you'll probably find that your Pluto is in your 6th house. So it's transforming the way you're working and your day to day. And you might find that there's lots of barriers stopping you from moving forwards. And that feeling, this also represents our health and fitness as well. So you may well find that it just feels like there's one thing after another. And it's like, okay, whoa, why can't I progress on this at the moment? But what's coming is there's a much bigger learning. It's usually time to just say, okay, stop fighting this, stop trying to move forwards. Just put your feet up, just like rest, stop trying to control things, stop trying to be organized, just rest in this moment and let the peace come in. Because once you do that, then the real way will just reveal itself. And that's I think the true message of Pluto is where you're trying to push forwards is yield, let it go. Don't worry about it. And then as it goes into the 7th, it's relationship control, like you're trying to force a relationship, or like really want a relationship to be a certain way. And it's like, no, relax, come on, just relax, let it go and see what comes up. And then the real true relationship will come forward. It's quite interesting because right now, and this marks a very, very tricky time. When you've got Pluto going over a main angle, as my next guest does. So I'll talk about this in a second. This will definitely come up as part of the reading. Neptune then is either in the 8th or the 9th house for you Leo ascendant people. Now, Neptune is showing us where we're deceiving ourselves, where like, are we trying to distract ourselves from who we are? Are we trying to forget who we are because it sucks sometimes? Or are we just so overjoyed with life that we're trying to just commune with everyone and everything? It's very much about the creativity and the higher love. You know, are we in flow with it, or is it so difficult for us that we have to avoid it? So with Neptune in the 8th, I think a lot of confusion can come up in terms of where you may have old abuse patterns. So a lot of stuff from the past, a lot of stuff from the mum line, which I think is very prevalent in the 8th house. A lot of stuff to do with blame, shame, and guilt and anger, because they're very difficult things to quantify. And then and it's like, how can you make sense of it? There's lots going on. You need to make sense of it. And if it's going into the 9th house, it's like the mystery continues. It's like, how can you trust any information out in the world that comes to you from these experts, these politicians, these religious leaders, these great big influencers, the celebrities, the Hollywood actors and things, all these people on the outside in this place of adventure that have so much sway over us, and all the lawyers and people to do with like legal courts, like all of that sits in the ninth house. Spiritual leaders too. It feels like you don't know what you can trust. And so you may also find you're going through a bit of a crisis there. Also, if you've got your Leo ascendant, Chiron is either in the ninth house or in the 10th house. So here's your old wounding coming up in the ninth. It could be that you felt wounded by religion and all of these thought leaders, and you're healing from it and learning what to let go of and learning what to keep and mastering it. Which is preparation for you to go into your 10th house, which is about your career coming forwards and moving forwards with a sense of delight and purpose and mastery. But you might find if you haven't healed all this, and often we like carry around all these old bits of us that need healing and need letting go of. But as it comes into here, what we find is that we are in our jobs, we're called to heal others a lot more and to heal ourselves more and more and more. So there's a very big healing thing going on. So they're the main players in this story right now. So I'm just going to check one more time if there's any more comments come in, and then I will actively start my last reading. Last comment then, Feel Good Astrology. The link isn't actually working. Oh my goodness. I'll find another one then. Yeah, Sagittarian here, working very fast and not always accurately. That's a shocker. Right. Okay. I will find the link and do that for you. Thank you for that heads up. Okay. So last reading then is for odds and ends, as they're known on YouTube. Now, odds and ends. Let me just find her. I'm just looking on my other screen. Now, I think I wrote some notes. Is kind of concerned about career, travel, and marriage. There's the North Node in her chart is in the 10th house, and she's a bit worried about the effect of the North Node in the 10th house. Okay. Okay. So first of all, my guess, I think you've all seen the name, so I'm just, rather than calling them odds and ends, I'm going to call them Latifa. So Latifa's chart here, I was given the time of 5:30 p.m. And the birthplace in Morocco, and that gives, according to the time, place, and date, it gives me an ascendant of 0 degrees in the sign of Leo, 0:15 in the sign of Leo. Now, I think she was a little surprised and saying, oh, I thought it was in Cancer, maybe Cancer or Leo. And she has also asked me about rectification. It's not something that I do that much of, but we can play a little game at the end. And so if you're in the chat room, that will really help me. So in her chart, she's got her ascendant, as I see it, at 0 degrees in the sign of Leo. This is interesting because right now Pluto is at 29 degrees in the sign of Capricorn. And a month ago, it was 0 degrees in the sign of Aquarius. It's going retrograde at the moment. And from January, it's going to be at 0 degrees in the sign of Aquarius and moving forwards again. So Pluto is in opposition to the ascendant and is on the descendant. So the ascendant is about, who am I? It's like, this is my body, this is my arrival. The ascendant marks the moment of birth. So it is everything about her body. And if you see here, it's the identity. It's like the body, the identity. This is who I am. It's all about the first house. And Latifa has got the Sun, Mercury, Pallas Athena that I've spoken about. This little character here is Vesta, also known as Hestia, according to which, whether you're Roman or Greek. And then we've got Venus. We've got the moon here as well. So that's a lot of things in sign of Leo. And we've also got Venus right before at 29 degrees in sign of Cancer. And then over here, creating some other oppositions, we've got Neptune and also Uranus. Now, this is also generational, I have to say, because people born in 1995, I believe, 1992, this is that right? Oh yeah, I'm looking at another date of birth. Yeah, 1995. People born around this time will all have their Neptune and Uranus in a conjunction together. Um, and over the last few years, this generation, so the millennial generation, have really felt the effects of the changes that have gone on around the world from the phenomenon of COVID, because Pluto has very slowly gone over these points, very slowly, very painfully. Neptune is our sense of reality. I was talking about it just literally before, and saying, it's how comfortable are we with higher love? Are we so happy and in love with our life that we want to merge with infinity? Like, we kind of lose our sense of identity because we feel so connected to everything else. Like, we recognize ourselves in everyone else. We lose sense of who we are. And Neptune at its lowest vibration, I think, is needing to forget who we are and like engaging in anything we can do to distract ourselves. So like the Neptune journey is a very real one. And with Pluto going over it in the last 5 years, like slowly approaching it, it would have brought up a lot of questioning for Latifa in terms of, oh my goodness, who am I? Where am I? A lot. And of course, she's also got Uranus. And so when Pluto was coming up to here, it was also impacting here. Uranus is, that aspect of change and innovation and technology, but also deep shocks and chasms. It's like an earthquake. It's like a volcano. Both of these two are outer planets, and this is the third outer planet. These are the last 3 planets that we sort of identify. In fact, Pluto's actually, I don't know if he's still deregulated as a dwarf planet, but these are like the last 3 that we really like strongly look at in astrology. And then beyond that, people specialize in some of those outer planets even beyond that. So these are big, like these are like generational things. So this all feels very personal. So Latifa's got Venus, one of the personal planets, Mercury, the moon and the sun, all personal planets, and her Mars is over here, which is interesting. That will tie in a second. And so we've got all this personal stuff here. Like, she knows who she is, and yet it feels like over this area there's life telling her, oh no, you can't be like that. It really feels like there's this opposition of her wanting to be herself and really be herself. In fact, like the sign of Leo, which I haven't really spoken about, funnily enough, even though it's very much about Leo ascendant. The sign of Leo, if you think of the king of the jungle, the lion, they are the king, they are sovereign, and they're ruled by the sun. And the sun is, as we've been told by NASA, the sun is like the center of our solar system, and we're all kind of rotating around it, or orbiting it, so the sun is the giver of life. And so the Leo energy is very much about shining and beaming and projecting and being noticed and being right to be who they are. They absolutely feel that sense of entitlement to be who they are, and they're very proud. If you think pride, like you have a pride of lions, they are proud and regal. And so at some level, Latifa's got a natural sense of that, sort of like, she's regal in many senses. With Venus on the ascendant, I mean, that's beautiful. Like Venus on the ascendant is absolutely like, I'm beautiful. Like, even if you're not actually that beautiful, you have beautiful skin, beautiful hair, lovely eyelashes, a beautiful, soft, dewy gaze, like your eyes will be beautiful. And then you've got the sun there as well, and Mercury there. So you're able to articulate what you need. And then the moon there. People with the moon in the first house tend to be very approachable. People really feel their energy. Now, because Latifa's got so much in a similar area, there's lots of aspect lines going off in all different directions, because it's making lots more interesting shapes. And so she's got like a little cluster here, little cluster here, a little cluster here, and a little cluster here, and then Saturn over here on his own. She's actually got what's known as a bucket shape. I've got one of these as well, where you've got all your focus in one half and then a little handle. It creates some interesting shapes. And what that means is when something goes over, one of these planets moves over a particularly full part of your chart, it creates a whole string of events and things can get quite crazy. So she'll have some really busy times. Like, for instance, Pluto going over this is a really, really strong time for her for different reasons. Like Neptune right now is over her Saturn, which again, so she's got Pluto here and Neptune here. That's really tricky. That's not easy, really not easy. And then Chiron right over her midheaven. That's a lot of tension coming in from the, like, Chiron is on the outer side of our solar system. Saturn's kind of in the middle. In fact, Chiron goes in between Saturn and Uranus, and Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. These are all the outers on the outer side, and then all of the personal stuff is pretty much on this side. So she's really feeling that confliction. Like, how can she be herself in this world right now when everything is kind of telling you what you can do, can't do? There's all sorts of things going on. So I'm going to drill down into that a little bit deeper. Just going to see if she's in the chat room right now. Oh, she is. So she's saying, I'm listening. It is Latifa. You can share again the chart. Okay. I am Latifa. I've also got hello from Cameron Bridges. Hello, Cameron. Welcome to the show. Hope you enjoy it. Okay. So, yeah, these are tough times, interesting times for you, Latifa, for sure. I'm glad you're listening in. That's really helpful. So, where do I want to go? There's a few things. First of all, I've been talking about the Venus retrograde that's coming up. When Venus goes retrograde, it's actually going to be in your second house. So you've got all the glamour of Venus and going on. And Venus gets the second house, which is usually a time when more money comes in, more money flows, or when we feel a bit more valuable, we start to realize our price. And then she shifts backwards and she goes all the way back to just in between Mercury and Pallas Athena. And then on the 3rd of September, she starts moving forwards again. So she's not retrograding over your ascendant. I think that's quite helpful. She's going in between your second and first house. She's going over Vesta. Vesta's about your truth. And she's almost like your internal motor, that feeling of truth and like, this is really who I am. It's like your core. So there's something about femininity, and there's something about the beauty of being you. And it feels like you're seeing yourself through a different lens. I actually see this as being quite beneficial. I mean, she's going to go over your moon, and that's usually a time when we feel very soft and quite loving, and we project that image quite a lot, and we feel quite calm and peaceful. And then she sort of retrogrades back over the moon and then over Vesta. I really think this is about getting you to your true core of who you are as a woman. Really getting to the heart of the matter, and it could bring up a lot of nostalgia. You may well find that you feel very deeply for a romantic partner, and you're looking for the truth of the situation, I would say, because Vesta is all about truth. And then she goes further. She goes forwards again. So I think from the 3rd of September, things will start to clear up. And just so you know, she'll clear your moon on the 1st of October. And so then I feel that you'll start to get more back in balance. So I do see this summer as being a time for you to really explore how you feel in love in general. That is also matched by the fact that Pluto right now is on your descendant, which is very tricky. I won't mince my words because I don't think that's helpful. But Pluto, I mean, it's not, I don't want to frighten you. at all, because Pluto, it sounds really like terrible. Like Pluto is about control, and it is about transformation, and it's about difficulty, like the feeling like we're being blocked, feeling like we're being stopped in our tracks. That's difficult. um I think the like over the last few years, when Pluto was in a conjunction with Neptune 5 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, off the top of my head, I can't remember, but it would have been a time when you'd have had that feeling of, okay, um, like I want to be sort of like romantic and really flow with these feelings that are arising in me, and it feels like there's a stop. It's like you can't go any further, almost like there's a boundary in place. And you'd have moved through that, and then it would have gone over Uranus, and then it, I think, would have felt a little bit chaotic, like it's one step forwards, about three back, and it's quite shocking. Your feelings probably would have amplified during that time, because shocks and arousal and Pluto all together, it's really, really deep acting. So I do think you've been through some massive changes, and I would imagine that your friendships and the way you relate to people has changed quite a bit since the COVID phenomenon, because Pluto would have seen to it, you know. Your need for freedom in your relationships, like Uranus on your descendant, is about liberation, feeling liberated, and also meeting quite open-minded people, um, open people, different people, people possibly even from a different culture, or people who travel, because Uranus is all about difference and spontaneity. So you've got this template of meeting free people, people who are slightly unusual. And then now Pluto right over your descendant, to me, it feels like um I know some people who've had Pluto going over their descendant, and they have felt like their partners are too free, and they're trying to control what they see as being a difficult situation. So you're trying to make sense of it, and I think in trying to make sense of it, um, you're possibly narrowing down the full potential, because it often looks like, oh, it can only happen if this and this happens, so you've almost decided how it needs to be. And Pluto is here to say, actually, no, there's something so much bigger than this. Something much more positive can happen. And so it's almost like Pluto almost forces you to just give up and say, okay, enough. I'm letting go of this, because this is causing me pain. And it's really, really hard to keep my heart open for something that just keeps jarring and sending me backwards. And it's in that release, when you let go of the possibility of love, I think, that something new arrives. I want to share a personal story. I had, like you, I've got a lot of planets in one area, and I had Pluto going over all of these planets, and I was backwards, and I went through a lot of change, intense change, not all pleasant. I look back at myself there and think, oh my goodness, who was I? I feel so different to who I was. Um, and and then it was coming up to Venus. My Venus was here at the leading edge of all these planets. And I was thinking, oh God, let's just see how Pluto's going to stick the knife in this time. But actually what happened was, leading up to this time, I just thought, okay, enough. Not looking for a partner anymore. Screw that. Yes, I want kids. And I'm just going to have to give up on it for now, because I just need to let go. And I spent about 6 months not dating, just being completely in my own sovereignty, 6 months abstinence from men and the ideas of relationships, and just really went inside. I'm not saying you have to do 6 months, not by a long shot, but that was what worked for me. And I'd had enough. Because I just thought, oh, when Pluto gets over my Venus, he's going to punish me, actually, as Pluto was nearing my Venus, I started to get lots of dates lined up. Lots of men started to take interest. And I was quite surprised by it, but nobody was really a good match for me. And I let go of them all very, very quickly. It was just like, no, thank you. This was fun. It's not going to work, but thank you. go well. And then I just thought, okay, I give up. This is just not going to work. And it was when I gave up that all of a sudden I knew where to go, and I met my husband, and it was as simple as that. And that was actually like a Pluto life transforming event. I think if you've been through a lot of Pluto giving you grief, and you've learnt to give up, give up, give up, but not give up because that sounds like, oh, I'm in sacrifice. And that's never good. I mean, I gave up a few times during that time and went into sacrifice, but it wasn't the full give up. It was almost like, okay, I'm going to give up, but I really don't want to. In the end, I was just like, let me die already. Just let me go from this. This is awful. This sucks. And I'm not suggesting that you take your life, not at all. But it's that kind of giving up. It's like, okay, enough. I just want peace. I just want this peaceful passage. And then that transformation comes. And I think Pluto brings us to our knees sometimes, especially when he goes over your sun or moon. Thankfully, you won't have to go through that probably in this lifetime unless you live to be like 200 odd. But for you, he's gone over your Jupiter, your vertex, not so important, and your Juno. That would have happened earlier on in your life. And then more recently, he's gone over Neptune and Uranus. Now he's over your descendant. This is, I would say, the toughest struggle you've had so far, because at the same time, you've got Neptune here over Saturn. You've also got Chiron coming over your midheaven. It's tough. It's not easy, but these are transforming elements. There's something going on, Latifa, that's really strong, and it's likely to rewire you. You've got two planets, strong, tough planets to do with healing, going over two of your angles, and then something going over Saturn. There is something big at work here for you. And I say for you very deliberately. It's not here to destroy you. It's here to clear something and to put you on another path, to really move you on. Now, you were talking about your career. I can see why. Like Chiron's coming up. There's maybe a feeling of, why don't I have that feeling of success yet? Why don't I have that feeling that things are moving in the right way? And again, Pluto over these guys, these are technically in your 6th house, which does rule your day-to-day activities, i.e. work and health. And if your health is out of balance, your work and your success will never prosper. And if your work's out of balance, the chances are your health is, again, another recipe for not prospering. So with Pluto here, it's probably been very hard for you to really make a move. But when I look at your chart here, look at all these things coming up to your midheaven. You, Latifa, are absolutely destined to do well. You should always be doing well. So, and these supportive trines from your personal planets to Saturn here, showing that you have the ability to build things and have patience and really create some stability. So I really think that what's going on right now, whilst it's worrying and it probably feels very painful because it's like losing a tooth, only like this is a big shedding. It is like you have some pain and discomfort because you can feel that there's this rebirthing of you, this new thing. If you're in, I mean, I don't know what your career is, but anything to do with healing and moving on and transformation and kind of changing the boundaries would be really good. Anything, whereby you're in a client facing role, like a sales manager or like a CEO or something like that, where you are absolutely seen by the client or seen by the marketplace, is important. You've got this lovely finesse about you and beauty and poise, and stability as well. So I would say that I just think as these aspects move beyond where they are, things will naturally come into alignment. And it's probably going to feel like you need to let go of a few expectations for this to birth itself. You're mentioning the North Node in the 10th. Like very soon, it's going to go into the sign of Aries. So where you've been maybe not feeling completely active, you've been building things and possibly collaborating. You've not maybe felt so direct. As the North Node changes signs in this next month, you'll be moving forwards, you'll be shifting forwards into this place of exploring what it is to be empowered and in your own authority. So I do think things are going to start moving. So I really think that as Venus retrogrades here and you get into the real core of who you are, and then the North Node shifts, this is going to get things moving again on a personal level. The Pluto and Chiron events, there's not much you can do about those because it's like the factors controlling those issues of how you're seen and maybe how love comes in. They also have to do with other people, and obviously other people have their journey too. But the North Node changing signs and Venus retrograde in your chart, I think, have more to do with your own personal power. So I think you're reevaluating yourself, feeling a surge of personal power to come into your own sense of who you are based on your own truth, and you're riding the storm until these things pass away. And my top tip is release as much as you can. Let go of things. Let go of things that you're questing for. If you're speaking to yourself and if you're hearing yourself saying, I must, I should, I ought, if you're using that kind of language, you're trying to push on something, and it's just going to bring about more frustration and more heartache. And it's time to say, okay, where is the ease? How can I easily move forwards right now? How can I easily accept where I am right now? How can I enjoy the present? It's absolutely about focusing on the right now and the beauty that exists in everything. So I hope that's helpful. And if I'm getting a few comments in here. So Royklin Zava, I hope I pronounced your name right. Hi. And do you take questions? I can't now, not today. Maybe I'll do a question show another day. Shakti Veda, hello everyone here, and I love the way you work with your astrology. Well, thank you very much. I like your comments. Thank you. That's so cool. So anyway, I'm going to draw this to a close now because I've been going at this for almost 1 hour 20, and I need to retire for the night and have dinner with my family. So I hope this has been helpful. This has been quite, there are some big changes, like in a week and a bit's time, we've got a full moon in Capricorn. We've got Venus going retrograde a little, into July. We've also got the North Node changing signs. And there are big world events going on. Pluto is sitting in between like that sort of 29 degrees and 0 degrees, about to move us all forwards again. There's so much going on. So I'm going to love you and leave you there. I'm getting some thank you messages coming in, so that's nice. So have a great week. If you would like to, I need to just share one link with you. So if you do want to join me, and would like me to look at your charts, hopefully this link should work. It might be the one I put in earlier. Let's just see if this one works. And I will get the link corrected. So there's going to be a link down below in the show notes. And if it doesn't work, I will correct it. But if you join my private community, there's not much going on there apart from lots of nice people sharing experiences. But there will be stuff added as it grows and develops. But if you come on there and communicate with me via the email attachment there, then I can bring you on and look at your chart in another show. So anyway, thank you all so much for joining me today. I hope you've all managed to get something out of it. And I really look forward to catching up with you in the near future. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.